Talk about the lion.
Say it again.
Talk about the lion hunt.
All right. We got that. We got lots. We have the great thing with you, Lou, is we have so many topics to choose from. So something about being a world traveler,
Yeah, well,
ranch, lion. Okay. So again, this is we're doing a little video recording for the radio show though. So everything you see or do can and will be used against you. Again, so we have basically 4 10-minute, 30-second segments. They kind of look funky here, but then Dr. Dan, Dangerous Dan McGrew at the studio condenses them on for the show, and then they'll get aired. So that's what we're doing here so far.
I've got something here, Larry, on the screen.
Oh, it pops up when he starts recording. It says allow to record. You just have to click on it and say, okay. Or it says, yeah.
Very good.
All right, we're all good.
That's because of Jeffrey Tubin that pops up.
So you know. It is. It's the Tubin notice. Don't be tubing. All right, let's get us going here, Dan.
Here we go. Welcome to The Firing Line with Philip Naiman. The Firing Line radio show is brought to you by Turner's Outdoorsman, IndustryGreetings.com, CCW Safe, Cutting Edge Bullets, Vortex Optics, Vortex, the Force of Optics, AskDefensive.com, and by Philip Naiman and Cornerstone Christian Wealth Management.
Good. Bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
And now your host, Philip Naiman.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the show wherever you are. I've actually been gone for quite a bit, and I think you all know that, but I want to thank my very special guests who filled in, Rick Travis and Mike Morrell, both super guys doing great things for the Second Amendment, and just couldn't be prouder that they were able to step in and help me out when I was out moving my son from Albany to San Diego. So thank you guys for that, and I know they did a great job. I heard the shows. They're, well, basically, they're better than I am. But this is actually June, right? And June is Pride Month. So we're going to celebrate Pride Month because Pride Month means we're proud to be Americans. We're proud of the Second Amendment. We're proud of our friends. We're proud of our family. And basically, that's all there is to Pride Month. Anything else is being stolen valor, if you will. So that's the way we celebrate Pride Month here. The rainbow has 7 colors, the way God decided to make it when he created that. And it's his sign, not anybody else's. Just saying. But as far as trans are concerned, I do think that trans is a thing. I've actually seen it. I have Remington 700 ADL, and I've been able to transform that into a very accurate weapon by adding a detachable box magazine, by changing the stock to the Macmillan MC3, rebarreled it with a proof barrel, put a better scope on it. So I've transformed that Remington 700 ADL into a great weapon. But at the end of the day, it's still a 700. It didn't change. The action's the same. Everything on it is exactly the way it was created. So you can have different modifications on something, but you're still shooting a Remington 700. Same thing with an AR-15. That's why they're modular, right? Put this on, take this off. It's a good thing. It's still an AR-15 or a Glock. Anyway, that's my social commentary in the world of firearms for those of you out there who are wondering, or hopefully you're not wondering, but that's just the way it is. We also had some news this week, actually today, as we're recording this. Igavanus Nerosum, the little emperor of California who thinks he should, is pushing for the 28th Amendment. I have a guest here on the show, Lou Misterly. Lou, did you see this news this morning?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, basically, he wants a constitutional amendment to adjust the Second Amendment. He says it'll keep the Second Amendment intact, but let me give you a reading of what exactly he's looking to do here. And folks, this is why it's so important to understand what's happening in different states and that your state legislature is absolutely important, because the state legislatures of all the different states decide if there's going to be a constitutional convention. If they have a constitutional convention, everything is up for grabs. So this morning, Gavin Newsom is proposing a 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to enact, this is from Forbes, by the way, to enact restrictions on gun ownership, including a national ban on assault rifles, an unprecedented response to the countless mass shootings that plague the U.S., but chances of adding the amendment seem slim to none since Republicans currently control most state legislatures. Newsom's proposed amendment would raise the federal minimum age to buy a firearm from 18 to 21, mandate universal background checks, institute a reasonable waiting period for all gun purchases, and ban civilian purchase of assault rifles nationally. In order for an amendment to be added to the Constitution, it needs support of 34 state legislatures, which would trigger a constitutional convention, discuss the amendment, and the Constitutional Convention. 38 states' support would be needed to ratify it. In the announcement video, Newsom, who is very hard to look at, I Gavinus Nerosum, the little emperor who thought he should, noted the amendment would keep the Second Amendment intact while respecting America gun-owning tradition. So I guess you can have a muzzleloader as long as it's not a side-by-side double-barreled muzzleloader. The proposed amendment appears to face long odds since Republicans, who typically oppose gun restrictions, control a majority of state legislatures, thank God. In an interview on NBC News, I Gavinus Nerosum, the little emperor who thought he should, was asked how feasible a campaign for the 28th Amendment would be given the GOP power at the state level, but claimed it's possible because their constituencies demand it. California governor will find a campaign to get other states on board with his proposal using leftover money from his 2022 re-election campaign. Here's his quote, the crucial quote. It says, pardon me, I got 4 damn kids, dude. I can't take it anymore. I mean, when they go to the mall now, when they go to a movie theater, when they go to a birthday party, let alone going to school, and I have to have conversations with them about this. This is insane. It's absolutely insanity, Newsom told Politico in an interview. So this is a man who wants to control your Second Amendment rights, or destroy your Second Amendment rights. At the same time, this is a man who's let over 70,000 felons out of jail early. I want you folks to realize, in all the things he talked about, none of them include increasing the penalty for the violent misuse of a firearm. If you want to stop people from carjacking, from armed robbery, from murder, you need to increase the penalties for such. Newsom has done his best to get rid of California's 3 strike laws. He has emptied our prisons to the point now where we're closing prisons because there's nobody in them. We're not filling them up with the criminals. There's even new laws that are going to restrict employees of a company from stopping somebody from stealing in their store. The insanity that is Newsom's world is on display on the streets of San Francisco, where you have to have a map to find out where the human feces are so you can walk around it. It is crime ridden. There are videos every single day of Oakland or San Francisco where somebody just smashes windows, reaches in, grabs all the tourist stuff, and leaves families destitute. It is a war zone, a third world country. It's not the place to be. And that's Gavin Newsom's utopia, if you will. So he wants to restrict all gun ownership, yet he never, ever increases the penalties for violent gun use. And that is the only way to stop a criminal, is incarceration, execution, or stopping him in the act with blunt force. That's the only way it works. Let me get your comments on this here, Lou Misterly. Lou, you are a former resident of the People's Republic of Occupied California. You're currently hanging out in St. George, Utah, in a beautiful trophy room of your design. What do you think about this idiocy? Let me set you up. What do you think about this idiocy?
Yeah, it is idiocy. I mean, I don't think much about it. Newsom, he's now badgering DeSantis in Florida. He wants to run every state around the union. And, He's unbelievable. When you call him
He's
the
evil.
emperor, that's what he thinks he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an evil man. He should be in North Korea.
Yeah, but Kim Jong-il wouldn't put up with him. He would have fed him to his dogs like he did his uncle.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
we should buy him a plane ticket. I don't know. Hey, one other thing, I want to do a shout out to one of my product sponsors here, Timney Triggers. Folks, if you haven't had a Timney trigger yet, you need to treat yourself to a Timney trigger. That's another mod you can do to your Remington 700 or your AR-15 or your Glock for that matter. I have in my hands here, if you're not watching on YouTube, I have in my hands here, well, if you're watching on YouTube, maybe let's get banned, who knows. I've got a Glock 21. This is the big bad Glock. Now, I had my local gunsmith here put a Timney trigger on this sucker. I wanted to see the difference between the stock trigger. Now, most people, when you're talking about a Glock, right? What is the problem with the Glock? Everybody hates their triggers. Besides, they're big and boxy. You know, those things you get modified, but the triggers, I'm sorry, Glock, out of the box suck. So I said, well, what does it actually weigh for a stock trigger? So I put it on my trigger scale. I couldn't weigh it. I ran out of room on the trigger scale before the gun fired. So it's over 5.5. It's over 7 pounds, I think it is, stock. And I thought, geez, it can't be that heavy. It is. So then this Timney trigger was put in on a Glock, takes it to 2.5 pounds of crisp trigger joy. If you have ever felt the difference going from 7 to 2.5 pounds on a pistol, it is absolutely amazing. So, hey, Timney Triggers, hats off for that. We contacted them. They sent us out a couple to do giveaways on. And I asked this for my specific friends out there in the Mosin Nagant community. I feel you guys have been neglected, you know, but a lot of people out there bought Mosin Nagants from $89 a piece all the way up. But this is a Mosin Nagant Timney trigger. I'm going to be giving it away. Check out our Facebook page or our Instagram page, both of them. Reply to it, say you've got a Mosin, send me a picture of it. I will randomly pick somebody and you will win this wonderful trigger, and we will make your Mosin Nagant a thing of beauty, which is a tall order, but we will help you get that done. 1 to 3 pound trigger for a Mosin, unheard of. All right, folks, we'll be right back with this. Some great hunting stories with my buddy Lou Misterly. We'll be right back. So I had to cut to that. So I'm gonna bring it up, remind them about the Timney, and then we'll start with you, my friend. I hate it when Gavin Nero takes up time on my show. I wish he would just go away.
So if the 28th Amendment is unconstitutional, how does that work?
If it becomes an amendment, therefore it is constitutional.
Oh, jeez. It changes the Second Amendment, which is...
Well, they had the slavery. You know, one said you could have slavery and the other one said you couldn't. So they can undo.
He wants to be president so bad. He may be. That's the Democrats' plan. All right, here we go.
All right.
This portion of the firing line is brought to you by Turner's Outdoorsman.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick.
Hey, folks, welcome back to Boomstick Radio. And if your boomstick happens to be a Mosin Nagant, I'm telling you, man, we've got a Timney trigger for you. It's right here. If you're looking on our YouTube channel, it's in the yellow box here. Beautiful box. This one will not come with the famed Tootsie Rolls because I ate them when they sent them to me. But, you know, sorry, you still get a free Mosin Nagant trigger. How do you get that? Go on our Instagram page, Firing Line Radio, or our Facebook group page. I'll have a couple posts on there. Send me a picture of your Mosin Nagant, and one random winner will get one sent to them, no charge. Now, except for Alaska and Hawaii, and no international shipments and whatever other stupid rules I have to bring up. If you do not win, sorry, no whining. If you whine, you're not allowed to enter future contests. Okay. That's the work to be done today. Now I want to get into the fun part of my show, which is interviewing one of my favorite guests I've had on many times. Those of you who are longtime listeners will remember some of the stories. You can't remember them all because there's too many, but this is Lou Misterly. Lou Misterly I've known for over 20 years. Great friend, done some great hunts on his ranches. Just had a great time with him. And, you know, he has won the World Hunting Award. He's won more awards than I can actually remember, but he's got an amazing trophy room in St. George, Utah. Get a hold of him. You might be able to get a tour on that because he does love to show his stuff off. But Lou, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Philip?
I'm doing fantastic, except for the fact that we have that horrible little emperor running around thinking he can run the world. Except for that, I'm doing pretty good. Those of you who are watching, if you're listening to this on the show, on the radio, you want to go to the YouTube page. I'll get this posted up there. Lou is sitting in his trophy room in St. George, Utah, which is, well, it's bigger than my house. But behind him, over his right shoulder, your left, if you're playing along at home, is a giant white carnivore. What the heck is that, Lou?
That's a polar bear.
Why don't you tell us about that polar bear?
Yeah, that was quite a hunt. Back in 1998, when you could, there were two permits issued. I had one of the two. I went up to hunt up to Tuktoyaktuk, which is on the Beaufort Sea.
It's easy for you to say.
And, yeah, easy for me to remember. Anyway, it was quite the hunt. You know, this was my second polar bear hunt, and I spent 30 days up there. The wind was blowing. It was cold, man. I mean, you used to have to go out on a dog sled. You couldn't fly in. Originally, you could fly in and hunt polar bears with a ski plane. That's no longer legal. So I had to take a snowmobile all the way up to from Tuktoyaktuk to the northern part of the Beaufort Sea. And the weather was unbelievable. I mean, it was between 50 and 100 below zero every day. We had a tent camp out on the ocean. Tuktoyaktuk is 250 miles north of there, and we're 68 miles out to sea. So in
Now,
February.
did Al Gore know this? Because he said there's no ice up there in 1998.
Yeah, he doesn't know much. I mean, they still talk about climate change. My heavens, they're crazy. I mean, Newsom, he's $31 trillion in debt now.
After
he had
225 billion surplus. But again, we don't want him stealing our show.
One of the fifth largest economies in the world, and he's losing money like hand over fist.
Intentionally.
And now
what he
he's
does.
badgering DeSantis about sending some of the illegals to him from Florida. That doesn't make any sense at all.
No, he's an evil person, and I wish him all the evil that he's causing. Let's get back to the polar bear hunt.
Back to the polar bear hunt, yeah. So we were living in a 8x10 wall tent, and out on the pack ice, and we'd hunted for 30 days before this polar bear showed up. What you do is you go out and shoot seals if you can. So the guide's name was James Pokiak, and his
these are all natives. Only natives can guide up there, right? And they can do whatever they want.
Natives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pokiak and he went up on we're all the way out to where the ice breaks on the ocean, right near the edge of it. And Pokiak went up the river there, up the ocean to look for some seals. And I was sitting in the tent with his son Jacob and his assistant guide. Excuse me. And we decided to take a walk. And I said, I'm going to take my trusty 300 Weatherby and I'm going to walk down and shoot a polar bear after 30 days of not seeing any. And his assistant said, well, I'll go with you. So he said, excuse me there. Anyway, so we took off walking down towards the ocean, a few hundred yards. And all of a sudden, I looked at the ice heaves, or giant ice heaves. I saw this movement. So I've got it. I've had it like a rangefinder binoculars. So I looked at them and I could see, oh my goodness, it's a polar bear. So Alvin said, "Let me see." He grabs my glasses. Oh, he says, "Lou, that's a big polar bear." I said, "Yeah, it sure looks like one." So I said, "Let's go." Well, when you're hunting in the north for polar bears, you wear a jumpsuit, very, very bulky jumpsuit. And we took off running down the ice heaves towards the bear. It was about, I'd say, a mile away. And all of a sudden, the bear turned and went towards the ocean, the open ocean. So Alvin said, "Well, come on, let's go." We took off running again. And man, I'm telling you, I'm panting because it's so tough up there to move around in that suit. And then the polar bear was going towards the ocean. We got to within 175 yards, and I said, "I got to shoot him here." So I laid down on the pack ice, and all I could see was broken ice heaves. So I had to stand up offhand, breathing like crazy, and fire a shot. Well, I was aiming for his right side, just behind his shoulder, so I could get his lungs. And I shot him, and he let out a roar. I mean, he was biting on the other side, figuring whether he'd gone all the way through him. So I dropped another round in the chamber, and shot again, and I missed. I was trying to lay down, but I couldn't do it. Couldn't see him. So I finally shot him just as he hit the water. I shot him again, and he took off in the water. Well, I'm standing there with Alvin. What do I do now? Well, James was coming back down, and I could hear him yelling, "Don't shoot, Lou, don't shoot." So the bear's in the water, probably 10 feet away, and I'm talking about 3,000 foot of water. And James comes up, and the bear's right there. And so I can't reach him, of course. Well, he starts swimming. He's not dead. He starts swimming out. He swims out to an ice heave. Gets on that ice heave, and I ranged it with my binoculars, was 90 yards out. So he climbed up on the ice heave, and I could hear James saying, "Shoot, shoot." So I shot him again, and he fell in the water. Well, that was at 3:30 in the afternoon. And
What temperature is the water?
Yeah.
What temperature is the
3,000
water?
foot of water. Yeah.
3,000 foot deep. What temperature?
The water temperature was in the freezing.
Because
So it
it's
was
salt
below
water, it's less than
32.
32 degrees, but like
Yeah.
28 or 29 degrees, right?
Exactly. And so then Alvin and James decided they go out and get the polar bear because he was dead now. So they got
Right. We got to break for a commercial here, but let me just set this up. We have a monster 13-foot polar bear, the one that's behind you, in the water, over 3,000 feet of 28-degree water with dog sleds, no electricity, no winches, nothing. We're going to pick this up when you come back here. Folks, Philip Naiman, Firing Line Radio Show. Check out this video. You're going to want to see this polar bear on our YouTube channel. We'll be right back after this.
Philip,
Yes, sir.
I got some sheep over here. Should I turn the video now?
As soon as we're done with the polar bear story, yeah.
Well, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm done, I guess.
Well, no, we got to.
Well, there's a little bit more to it.
Exactly. All right, Dan, we're ready.
Here we go. This portion of the Firing Line is brought to you by CCW Safe by Philip Naiman and Cornerstone Christian Wealth Management.
Spartans, lay down your weapons! Persians, Get them!
Hey folks, welcome back. I know we're on a bit of a cliffhanger here. Philip Naiman here with Lou Misterly, good friend, worldwide hunter, awesome guy, talking about his polar bear story. If you haven't heard the whole front part, I'm not going to catch you up. You have to listen to it on a podcast or go back on our YouTube channel. But Lou, we have a polar bear on an ice floe above the Beaufort Sea. Pick it up from there.
Okay, from there. Well, James Pokiak and his guide, Alvin, decided they'd go out and get the polar bear. Well, this time they had bought a new sled. It was like a toboggan. It was made out of fiberglass. And so they went up and they picketed the dog team, and they put this toboggan in the water. And his son and I, James, stayed there, and we had a 125-foot length of rope. And I asked Alvin, I said, or James, I said, what do we do when you won to the end of the rope? Because they tied it to the toboggan. And I said, he said, just turn it loose. If we've gotten that far, we'll be fine. So they got to the end, turned it loose. Remember, the bear's about 270 feet out there. So they were only halfway, not even, and went out and tied up the bear and started bringing it back. Well, the wind's blowing about 50 miles an hour and it's 50 below zero. It was very, very cold.
Yes.
So they tried bringing the polar bear back, and the wind that was blowing him underneath the ice floes. Finally, they got back to the good ice, and we tried to pull him out. I shot that bear at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we pulled and pulled and pulled, and we'd get the bear up out of the ice, and then he'd fall backwards. And finally, I kept telling James, man, we need a come along or a helicopter, one of the two. So he got an idea. He said, well, we'll use this 2x4 and we'll make a pole out of it. So we chopped the ice, stuck the pole down there, and cut the rope into 4 lengths, tied 3 of them on his legs and 1 around his neck. And then James dallied that around the 2x4, and we started pulling. Well, we'd get the polar bear up a couple inches, and then he'd fall back. So we 1, 2, 3, 3 of us would start pulling. We got the bear up almost out of the water. We finally popped him out of the water, and he slid up on shore. We were hugging each other and dancing around, and we were so excited. Then we heard the ice crack. We grabbed that polar bear, that 1,700-pound polar bear, and moved that thing about 20 feet onto the better ice. And that was at 3:30
in the morning.
In the afternoon. Yeah. 12 and a half hours later. So that was my polar bear story. And that polar bear is number 2 in the world.
Yeah. If you're standing next to it, folks, you come up to about his hips. If you look at the width of his head, it looks like he could grab you, kind of like swallow you whole if he just threw his head back a few times. It is an absolute amazing animal. And I always love that story every time. I can't imagine the guys hopping in a dog sled, paddling across the Beaufort Sea. That's awesome. Hey, turn your camera a little bit here. Let's talk about your ranch.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Can
those
you
of
see
you
the
who,
sheep?
oh yeah, there's a beautiful stone sheep in the background there, folks. So Lou owns Lou Misterly Timberline Ranch out of Laramie, Wyoming. It is a absolute fantastic hunt. If you have an opportunity in the month of June, there are still leftover cow tags you can apply for. It's unit 79, but you need to go on the website. You can scoot back a little from the camera, Lou. You can go back on the website to Wyoming and apply. He still has some openings there. If you've ever watched my channel and seen the videos of hundreds of elk at a time, that's Lou's ranch. Okay. I do a little helping out on the ranch, gentleman guiding, if you will. Everybody gets great elk. It's not that I'm a genius; it's a great ranch. So it makes me look good as far as helping people out. But you know, there's bull hunts. You can't get a bull this year unless you already have a general tag. Well, if you have a general tag in Wyoming, you don't know where to go, give them a call, because the bull hunting is absolutely amazing. And there's only one guy who's hunting bulls there this year, right? No one else got drawn. So if you are a general tag holder for Wyoming, you want to get a hold of us, we'll get you Lou's number. The tell us about your ranch, Lou. Well, I don't need to keep
Well, the
bragging
ranch
about it.
is, it's in the southeastern part of Wyoming in the Snowy Range. The ranch sits in between two huge ranches, 150,000 acres on one side and 40,000 on the other. The whole back of the ranch is Medicine Bow National Forest, and it's natural habitat, and it's all free range hunting. But we get lots and lots of elk. You know, we had one time this winter, we had 43 bulls come in. Only bulls came in. I think I might have sent you that picture.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. So we're over the last 31 years, we're pretty much 100% success, with the exception of one guy. This is a good guy. His name's Austin. He built my home here in Utah, and he came up and he had this one bull in mind, and we'd seen the bull before, and so he said he'd probably seen 20 different bulls and didn't shoot, looking for this one bull, and it just didn't work out. He was in a blind. He got out to relieve himself, and the bull came in, and by the time he could jump back in and the blind, the bull was running across the meadow, and he didn't shoot it. He could have shot it Texas style, but instead he didn't shoot. Excuse me. And it ran into the forest, and he never got it. So that spoiled my 100% success. But he could have got a bull.
I'm sorry. You never leave your rifle. You never leave your rifle. You get out of the car to look over the edge. You have to, you get out to look around your rifle. Why are you? Yeah. Oh, well, sorry,
Yeah.
Austin.
For sure.
Never leave. Rule number one, never leave your rifle. You can leave your friends behind. Never leave your rifle. All right. So the ranch is great. You've got unbelievable hunting there. It's an old lodge. What do you have? 6,500 acres on the west side.
Yeah.
It's kind of lowland. It actually is full of antelope and prairie dogs. And then it transitions into sagebrush and rolling hills with a lot of deer. And then the elk are up on top in the big grassy meadows. And it is truly a absolutely beautiful place. And the elk are there because he hunts them correctly. You don't blow them out of the country. You know, we stay on the sides and we pick and choose our elk, and then they all stay fat and happy right there.
And
So
they really enjoy it. You know, it's got, the ranch has 2 drainages, and the wildlife just like those drainages. So they're there. They actually, the elk even calve there. They winter there and they calve there. And the bulls, you know, sometimes the bulls in the summertime go back up. The back of the ranch is 13,000 feet is the mountain behind it. The ranch itself goes to 9,000 feet in elevation. But the elk and deer and antelope are there. So it's a very wonderful place.
absolutely.
Anyway,
So if you want to get a cow tag, I mean, dude, the problem with shooting a cow up there is you're going to shoot the first one you see, and then you're going to miss out on watching the Disneyland parade of elk, because when they come through at 200 or 300 head in one herd, it is Unbelievable. You can hear the music in the background that goes dun 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 dun, and you just watch elk after elk parading through the place. It is absolutely magical. You can get a hold of me, or just get a hold of me. All right, send me a note on Instagram if you're interested in that. We'll set you up with Lou, the best elk hunting you'll ever see, and it's gentleman friendly. If you have a bad knee, bad back, don't worry about it. We can get you taken care of. Folks, Philip Naiman, Firing Line Radio Show will be back with Lou Misterly right after this. Gentleman hunting, right?
Yeah, very good, buddy.
We're still
I'm stuttering around a little bit, you know. I'm not as crisp as I used to be.
well, none of us
You know,
are.
Yeah.
Well, so do you want to talk with you got your sheep in the background here. Do you want to talk about those? Would you like to talk about your lions? What would you like to cover the last segment?
Yeah, probably the lion, I guess.
It's not a
I,
bad story.
I think I can remember that.
Are they written down yet? Have you done your memoirs?
Yeah. No, I haven't done that yet.
All right. Okay, Dan, let's pick it up.
This portion of the Firing Line is brought to you by Vortex Optics. Vortex, the force of optics.
By AskDefensive.com.
Yes! Great hunter. Yes? Fine figure of a man, yes? Yes?
Yes.
That is all you need to know for now.
Amen to that. That's all they need to know for now. Folks, Philip Naiman, Firing Line Radio Show. Get our podcasts at firinglineradio.com. And if you go on our Instagram page or our Facebook page, the group page, you'll see that we're giving away a Timney trigger for a Mosin Nagant. This is some Mosin Nagant love for those of you who have a Mosin Nagant. It's going to make it into a fine weapon. And, you know, the best part about the Mosin Nagants, if you have a French one, it's never been fired and only dropped once. So it's a perfect addition to that nearly brand new battle rifle. Folks, joining me back here is Lou Misterly, and Lou Misterly of the Lou Misterly Ranch, Lou Misterly of the World Hunting Award, Lou Misterly, my friend. One of the things, you can't see it in your trophy room right now. If you're looking on a YouTube page, folks, you'll see that he's got his sheep mountain of beautiful stone sheep in the background, but he also has a diorama with lions and kudu. Oh my. And your lion hunt was quite something. Can you, in the last 10 minutes here, tell us about your lion hunt?
Okay, yeah. Well, this particular lion hunt was in Zambezi Valley. And we were, you know, when you lion hunt, you travel around till you find some tracks. And then if the tracks look like would be the right lion, then you shoot a bait and hang a bait up, and the lion comes to feed. And then you make a blind and take the lion. Well, we'd done that for probably 10 days, and we finally found a good lion track there. So we set up half a buffalo as a bait. The only problem was it was on a dry creek, and I had to get on the other side of the creek to set up a blind, which was probably about 75 or 80 yards across. So a little bit far for setting up a blind, but we did it. It was on a hill, and we put up a long boomer, camouflage boomer, as a blind. So we were sitting there, and it was a hot day. I could feel the perspiration rolling down my back, and we sat there for a while, and it started to get dark, and so my guide there, Chris, he said, Lou, he says, can you still see the bait? And I said, yeah, barely, but you know, it's getting to the point where we're going to have to quit. Just about that time, I heard him yell, Lou. Well, this lion was walking across on the other side of the river towards the bait, and he had stopped, and I was going to shoot him there, but he had a log across the front of him there, a dead tree, and I couldn't make the shot. Didn't have his vitals area open, so he got to the bait, and he was eating it, and then he turned around and sat on his haunches facing us. And so I told Chris, man, that it's getting dark. He said, can you still see? And I said, yeah, I can see good enough to shoot. So he says, well, go ahead, man. I'd hunted with this guy for several years. I knew him very well. So I shot. And when I shot, the lion fell down off the bank. There was like a cut bank, fell down off the bank there where the bait was. And he was roaring and rolling around in the sand. And he jumped up and ran into the bush. Well, you could hear the lion roaring, and then all of a sudden it stopped. Chris says, he just died. So we got in the Land Cruiser. We drove across the Sandy Creek all the way over there, up the bank and down the other side. And we saw blood in the sand, a lot of blood there. And he said, well, he's just up here. So we started walking to look, and the line was moving. Chris said, we better take the rig. So we jumped in the rig, and he was walking in front, and his guide, his tracker, Francis was his name. And we walked for a long ways, and then Chris told me, he said, Lou, you better take the safety off and get ready, because I think that line's right ahead of us here. Well, just before that, I'd fallen down in the back of the truck, got hit in the head. And man, I woke up, I thought, what the heck hit me? Well, there was a giant limb, and the Land Cruiser had hooked that limb and up over the top of the bumper and hit me on the forehead and knocked me out. So broken nose and all, I get out of the rig and start walking with Francis and Chris. And he said, we better stop right here. That line's right there in that combretum bush. Well, we had a flat tire. This was back just after the war in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. So excuse me. So we went back to camp, and in camp was another professional hunter and his guide and his hunter. And so they offered to come in there the next morning and see if we could find that lion. So I said, well, let's go. The next morning at dark, we took off, and we parked the rig right where it was the night before. And we were down in front of it, me and Francis and Chris and a friend of mine named Phil, who was taking a video. Well, that's what his purpose was, but they took the video out of his hand and gave him a shotgun. And so we're down there, bending down there looking, and all of a sudden Chris said, oh no. And he looked up and he could see the lion. The lions are funny. They'll flick their tails 3 times and then they'll come, but they roar first. And we heard the roar, and here comes the lion. And so Francis was down on the ground looking at the track. Well, he jumped up and he hit Chris on the shoulder and knocked him off balance. And his gun went off because he had a double rifle. And then he hit me on the shoulder, and I lost my balance a little bit, but I stayed on my feet. And this lion was coming, and I could see him coming. I've just put the crosshairs up there on him, never even saw it, and then pulled the trigger. Well, the line comes sliding up to our feet, and that was a very scary situation with that lion, and Chris getting knocked down and couldn't shoot, So anyway, that's my lion story, man.
That's one of 2 charging lion stories that I remember.
Yeah.
This is the big male that you have in the other room there with the kudu, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
with the female.
Yeah, and the female was the other one that charged you. Folks, Lou has hunted all over the world. He's got the World Hunting Award. I got to say, one time you opened your trophy room up to the public and you had thousands of people come through to see them. It is a wonderful museum. And when you realize the money that was spent hunting these animals goes into the conservation of these animals, and the fact that, like he just mentioned before, the Zambezi War, the Mozambique Wars, whenever they have this conflict and communists take over countries in Africa, the wildlife absolutely is decimated. But through hunting, that money has been there to support the game parks, to support the anti-poaching efforts. The number one problem with animals in Africa is not sport hunting. It's poachers. It's poachers for rhino horn. It's poachers for meat. It's poachers for trophies. A lot of this is going back into China and Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi and those type of areas. And so these guys go in with machine guns. They go with muzzle loaders with rebar loaded in them. They shoot the animals. They wound the animals. They just cut off the horn. They waste things. They waste the ivory. They're criminals. They're probably people Gavin Newsom would let out of jail. That's how bad these people are. But they're absolute criminals. And that's what's causing the problem. When you have sustainable hunting and responsible people involved, it is the best thing for a large population of wildlife, especially when they're taking out some predators. I really wish we'd take out some predators in California, I'll tell you that. Animal ones too. Folks, I want to thank my very special guest, Lou Misterly. Lou Misterly, the Misterly Timberline Ranch in Wyoming. Get a hold of me. Just message me on my Instagram page, Firing Line Radio, if you're interested in going hunting with him. It's a great time, great place. You'll never see more elk unless you're in Banff during September. Lou, thank you for your time. Enjoyed it as always.
You're very welcome, Phil. Thank you.
God bless you. Happy Father's Day.
Thanks for having me on, man. God bless you.
I miss you too, buddy. God bless.
Okay, man. Take care.